Hey everyone, it's James Lambert. I hope you're very well indeed thriving in your lives wherever you watch this video. Now, I suppose in many ways this has been a video a long time in the making, and the theme topic of this video is loneliness. And I think in part, quite frankly, I've been somewhat fearful of talking about the topic of loneliness, for as much as many of my clients struggle with it, sometimes it's been easier for me to keep it at arm's length. For when I've thought about experiencing loneliness myself, obviously by virtue of it being personal and rather upsetting, I have been avoiding it somewhat. And specifically I'm talking about the loneliness and the feelings of alienation it brings on, intricately linked with despair, feelings of depression, and maybe even, suicidal thoughts. That deep sense of loneliness. And it's not the obstacle or the challenge with it is it's not fleeting. When you're amongst it, it can be quite terrifying, such as its bleakness. And for those that have experienced this, you will know what I'm feeling and have felt, and you'll know what I'm talking about, more importantly. But for those that haven't, it's difficult to describe. And for all intents and purposes, another difficult challenge when speaking about that form of mental health is it's difficult to decipher if you're not experiencing it, i.e., I can feel incredibly alone. You may have had this as well, or experienced this, but yet you could be in a room full of people. I remember, geographically, when I was in the heart of London, I was surrounded by millions of people, but at times I'd never felt more alone because I had no one I could reach out to. Or, interestingly, I felt like I had no one. For my beautiful parents were there were people that loved me, and this is the thing about this feeling of isolation and loneliness. As I say, for those that have felt it, you'll know what I mean. But you can be surrounded by many people and yet feel terribly alone. And I speak to those of you out there that may be feeling alone. First and foremost, I think it's important, and I say this to remind myself, but you're not alone. Literally, there are people and support groups. I'm here for you. But there are other people going through and feeling what you're feeling, the same sense of aloneness, of loneliness and alienation as you. And I think that's a nice, hopeful foundation to start upon and recognise, because, of course, recognising that, you may begin to feel less alone, which is in part a potential route back to feeling better. And as I say, since starting my business, James Lambert Coaching, I, for the longest time, subconsciously, but over these last few weeks, increasingly it's coming to the forefront of my mind that I in part spoke about or felt easier or happier speaking to angry young men or stress-filled men, or former fighters or current fighters, and that's okay. But I was somewhat avoiding the real sense of loneliness and alienation that I and they at the heart of the matter felt. So I realised that so many people that identify as being depressed and exhibit violent tendencies or engage in violent sports like your boxing and your mixed martial arts and your things of that ilk, it is because it is almost like they are trying to compensate for their loneliness. And so just to finish that loop, so I felt happier talking about that and not really touching upon the depression and the loneliness that in truth was the reason why I started James Lambert Coaching. I didn't want other people, I didn't want other men to feel that alone, to feel so alone that they would contemplate taking their own life. And so, as I say, I started James Lambert Coaching. It's been almost 7 years ago now. But I want to talk more directly to those people because, as I say, the exhibiting problem or challenge may be violent outbursts towards others or antisocial behaviour or risk-taking behaviour. But at the heart of this is depression and acute loneliness. And I think when we begin to look at this and recognise that that is what we're feeling, for how can we heal something we haven't identified, quite simply, we can begin to get to the heart of the matter, is what I like. So instead of just healing the presenting symptoms, which is akin to sticking a plaster on a tumour, it's superficial at best, we look at the loneliness, the pain and the depression that's driving our behaviours. So as I say, increasingly I want to be talking about loneliness. And again, in part, I used to think it was something, one, I was ashamed of feeling, because I felt, you know, I've got people that love me, but no matter, your feelings are valid for virtue of you feeling them. So please don't feel ashamed or apologise for them. You know, it doesn't matter if you've got, you know, 1,000, 100,000 people that are there for you. It's about sort of refinding that yourself, and in part that's the work I've done and the work I help facilitate in my coaching. It's that way, you know, we say love ourselves, but what does that mean? It's a journey, it's a process, and that's what a good coach, I think, a good mentor takes you, or rather comes alongside you and holds your hand, metaphorically speaking, as you go through that journey back to healing oneself, forgiving oneself, and in part back to wholeness. So as I say, increasingly I'll be talking about this, but I think it is important, if you're out there feeling alone, reach out, whether it's to myself or others, get help, speak about it. It's okay to recognise you're feeling alone, you're feeling depressed. You know, that's okay to recognise that first and foremost. And I know it can be difficult. It's difficult even in my work today to acknowledge that is not just how I felt, but at times still feel, for whatever reason that may be. But at times, you know, it can sneak up on you very quietly and invisibly. That deep despair, that even if things are seemingly, you know, you're making others happy, you've got a place to live, you've got a warm home, yes, all those things notwithstanding, it just sneaks up on you, this feeling of aloneness. But as I say, you're not alone, I'm not alone, we're not alone. And if you are struggling, please do reach out. As I say, whether it's to myself or a different community or to a local group or something, a hobby, get back into, speak to a friend, maybe an old friendship you've let lapsed, reach out to your loved ones, your family members, your work colleagues, the Samaritans, whoever it may be. Pick up the phone, send an email, a text, whatever it takes. Don't stay rooted in that despair. And as I come to a close in this video, I did want to say, because it's my duty to let others know, that I have started a new monthly mastermind. And this isn't actually a mastermind in the, if you like, the traditional sense. I don't like doing things traditionally. It's in whereby, say, a group of businessmen or women meet together to further business success. This is really a space for men to get together, but that isn't, say, the pub where people don't want to hear about Dave's lows, like, cheer up, we're trying to have a good time. It's just not the right place, it's not the right context. So this is a virtual place, a group where men can meet safely and talk about what is both, which both is working and isn't working. You know, the highs and lows of life that we all encounter. And fundamentally, a place where hopefully my aim is you really feel much less alone in your life, with your struggles, with your challenges, and with your successes, with your wins in life. You've got someone to share them, because, you know, maybe your significant other, your partner, not that they don't care, but, you know, sometimes it's nice to share it with a group of strangers, but we become brothers through our shared interests in self-improvement or bettering ourselves, living, reaching for our goals, but also just simply feeling less alone. As I say, and I have started this monthly mastermind with that very strong intention for you, if you are struggling, if you feel alone, it's a place to feel very much less alone. And that's, as well as my other work, obviously coaching still in the one-to-one manner, and my 3-month Unstoppable Blueprint program. So please do get in touch if you feel I can help in any way, shape or form, or if you are indeed interested in the monthly mastermind. Key point, you're not alone, and you don't have to be stuck with those feelings of loneliness. Anyway, from my heart to yours, I wish you well. Much love from me, and remember, you are unstoppable, and I believe in you. Take care.